He said he'd come to represent the 13 million Palestinian people and to call for a just peace, arguing that the plan was not fair and that they rejected it.
It was rejected by us because it considers that East Jerusalem is no longer under the sovereignty of the state of Palestine. That alone is enough for us to reject this plan. It leaves Palestine fragmented, without any control on our land, air and sea. It will put an end to the question of Palestinian refugees. It will end all bases for a peace plan. It means a rejection to all agreements and obligations to establish two states along the pre-1967 lines.
He held up a map of a proposed discontiguous Palestinian state, comparing it to Swiss cheese, a proposal he believes would entrench occupation by military force.
They are strengthening the apartheid regime. This plan rewards the occupation instead of holding it accountable for all the crimes it perpetrated against our people and our land.
Abbas called for the implementation of UN resolutions, the Arab Peace Initiative, and again for an international mechanism under the auspices of the Middle East Quartet to drive direct negotiations.
However, to be honest, the U.S. alone cannot be the sole mediator. Among the quartet, you are more than welcome. However, as the sole mediator, we will not accept.
The United States called the plan different from its predecessors because it offered Palestinians a realistic prospect for seeing a fully recognized Palestinian state in their lifetime. South Africa, for its part, warned that peace initiatives must be developed with the full participation of all the parties, particularly the Palestinians themselves, and called for the Security Council to support the necessary environment for that to happen.
Mr. President,
Israel accused some in the international community of forcing outcomes of negotiations before they'd even begun.
Israel and the PA previously agreed in internationally endorsed agreements that a border will only be determined through direct and bilateral negotiations. Yet still, some of you, against this explicit agreement, try to add a precondition that future borders must be negotiated based on the so-called 1967 lines. Let us negotiate. When you tell him that will be the outcome, he will not enter the room. That's what we are doing here. Why should he negotiate with us when you are negotiating for him?
He cited the failure of past blueprints for peace while rejecting President Abbas's leadership in Palestine.
But President Abbas refuses to be pragmatic. He refuses to negotiate. He is not interested in finding a realistic solution to the conflict. Mr. President, let's not beat around the bush. Progress toward peace will not be made as long as President Abbas remains in his position.
The UN Secretary-General reiterated the broad international consensus that the organization remained committed to resolving the conflict based on relevant UN resolutions and international agreements. Bryce-Pease, SABC News, New York.